Now, it's very much apparent that Bob Iger is not just dealing with one major issue over at Disney and, of course, the Disney board as well, such as everything happening with the Indiana Jones 5 box office collapse, but they also have the closure of the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel in Galaxy's Edge by this September. They also have had the failure of Elemental and expectations not being met for the box office for The Little Mermaid. The list goes on and on, but the biggest problem of all for Disney right now is Snow White 2024 after those leaked photographs surfaced of the 7 dwarfs. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on here with Snow White. Specifically, what's going on with the development of the ending for this movie that sounds like a disaster. And we're going to be getting into all of this because given that this movie is really going through a lot of damage control, a lot of adjustments behind closed doors between mapped out re-edits that they're planning to actually seek, as well as reshoots as their plan B, but reshoots are only going to be possible if and only if the writer's strikes and everything happening with SAG lift by this November. And they may or may not delay the movie if that actually ends up being the case as well. So, we know that this film is going through a very rough patch, and a majority of it has mostly to do with the 7 dwarfs being completely changed, design-wise, portrayed by actors that are not even dwarfs, and this is really kind of sending a message to people with dwarfism that they're out of a job, that they can't get those types of roles. It's just not good at all. It's very offensive. However, on top of this, what's really intriguing is that with the Snow White backlash growing every single day for Bob Iger and the Disney board, one major development surrounding the film involves multiple scenes between both Zegler's Snow White and Andrew Burnap's Jonathan. One scene in particular that was shot back in June of 2022 revolved around Snow White falling on the ground when facing the Queen during the ending. Jonathan runs over to help her, up where Snow White delivers a line of dialogue saying, "Stop taking my hand," as Jonathan tried to do this earlier just minutes before her second fall when facing the evil Queen. Zegler's Snow White during the ending is described to be very bossy in nature and holds a sassy attitude. As Zegler said, this iteration of Snow White takes no orders from anybody and rises to become a leader. The scene during the very end of the film also involves a sequence in which Snow White creates a plan to storm the evil Queen's castle. Jonathan comes up with a plan as he's discussing this between Zegler's Snow White and the 7 magical creatures that Disney calls them, that comes across as a sophisticated plan, followed by Snow White talking down to Jonathan, stating that's a preposterous idea. Now, let me stop right here for a second. Now, this just goes to show you that Snow White's character is just as bossy as Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Helena Shaw in Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny. And you know what? Come to think of it, I just remembered this. I don't know if Disney's following like a template here. Do you guys not remember in The Force Awakens where Finn tries to take Rey's hand and Rey says something around the lines of "Stop taking my hand"? Is that not like a copy and paste of what they did in Star Wars and how they're throwing it into Snow White now? I don't know if that's connected or if that's just a coincidence, but I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I really don't, because we see that Disney loves to just copy and paste certain elements of past films and to throw it into this one in particular. They kind of did this with the whole Rey and Han Solo/Luke dynamic in Star Wars and how that kind of got inserted into Indiana Jones. You know, I always view Helena Shaw as like the Rey of the Indiana Jones franchise to a degree. But moving on, I mean, this whole ending sounds like a mess so far, and there's more to it than just this we're going to talk about in a second, because it gets worse. We know that the ending was something that was very much a messy, hellish production for Disney to work with. They shot 3 endings, and this is the one that apparently they are sticking with and keeping in the final cut. Unless they get those, reshoots to actually get approved after the writer's strike come to a close. That's all highly dependent, though, on when that really even happens. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. These writer's strikes, are projected to last at least months from now. We'll have to wait and see. Anything can change, though. Now, further, there are reportedly 5 whole sequences in the ending in which Snow White talks down to Jonathan. By the way, guys, Jonathan is the love interest, or the quote-unquote love interest in this film, if you want to look at it that way, since Zegler did say that she needs no true love in this film. But moving on, the worst moment of all is when Zegler's Snow White appears unconscious after some kind of bridge collapse across the castle. Jonathan crawls up to her as he is reportedly hurt as well during the ending of the film and goes for a kiss. Snow White, ironically, wakes up slowly just in time, covering his lips, delivering more dialogue saying, "Now is not the time for love," as she springs up and hops on a horse heading toward the wreckage to face the queen again. Again, guys, I mean, this just goes to show you how bossy she really is, how sassy she really is, and yeah, it's really kind of matching up with what Zegler said about how this iteration of Snow White needs no true love, needs no help, needs no, kind of assistance, that she only rises up to become a leader, to follow her father's ways. That's really what this story is all about. And even Gal Gadot, by the way, even said that this movie is about Snow White being a leader and how she wants no kind of love story or anything like that. This, to me, sounds like a disaster. I don't know why Disney is doing this, but this is not a good message, especially to a younger audience. Basically, what it's teaching them in a way is, you don't need no love in your life. You don't need no kind of romance in your life, but to shut down men in this way. That's what it's coming across as. Zegler in this scene, however, is wearing the traditional Snow White outfit, just like in the leaked photos from many months ago. However, her outfit is described to be shredded and teared up from the initial blast from a magical weapon. You see, here's the thing I don't like about Disney, is that with these movies, people really need to realize that it almost somewhat comes across as, and I would not be surprised, it almost is 100% intentional. I believe, actually, it might very well be at this point, because this is happening way too consistently, that it is a brainwashing technique to a younger audience to teach them on how to act, what to say, what to do in certain circumstances. It's not good, and I think that this is exactly why there's a lot of people getting away from Disney, boycotting Disney, not purchasing their merchandise, going to their parks, going on their Disney cruise lines, which, by the way, never go on there. Very, very big failure in my opinion. But there's a lot of things, going on here. I mean, this just goes to show you that this film is going to fail. It's not going to live up to anybody's expectations. And if anybody is even looking forward to this film, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. There's no doubt about it. So I think what they should do, as I talked about this yesterday, they need to delete this whole movie, scrap it, just like Jason Acuna said. Scrap the whole thing, recast, release it 2 years later. What's the big deal, right? I mean, you're going to save your image at least a little bit. You're not going to offend people, and just do that. Batgirl, the thing. If Batgirl could close their own movie down, they could do this too. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.